Hey everyone, welcome to this Blender 3D tutorial on animation. This is the second part of my two-part series on how to animate. If you haven't seen the first part, I will put a link to it in the video description below. But in this tutorial, I'm going to take you through how to animate this character right here that we rigged in the first part. We will create a simple hand waving animation with her left hand, with Neptune's left hand. And I will also show you how to properly create multiple animations. So we will create a hand wave animation for the left hand and a hand wave animation for the right hand as two separate animations. This is very important if you want to use this for like game design or something like that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that you will need to do is separate your workspace. We need two more windows. We need two additional windows. So go ahead and split up your workspace. So just go to your border right here and then go to split area. And then let me go ahead and turn on my screencast key so you can see what I'm typing. Repeat that same process, split area, so we have 3 total windows right here. So for animation, we need a dope sheet. So change this window type right here to dope sheet. And we also need a window for timeline. So don't worry about these right here. In fact, let me delete those. That was from something earlier. Okay, so inside your dope sheet, this is where you'll see the frame data for each of your bones. So once you have an animation done, you can actually go into your dope sheet and fine tune your animations by posing your character every single frame. Your timeline, this is just another tool to help you keep track of your animations. So you can click and drag through the dope sheet as well as the timeline. And you can also use the arrow keys. So before we begin, there's one important thing to point out. You should have this red button right here depressed. That red button is for recording. Basically what that button does is it will record everything we do inside pose mode. So right now, because I have this button depressed, if I were to do something in pose mode, if I were to rotate her head, you'll see the frame data save right here inside your dope sheet, and you'll see the bone corresponding to this frame right here, head. If it wasn't depressed, let me control Z that. If it wasn't depressed and I were to rotate it, it wouldn't save. So if it wasn't depressed, to save it, if you were to do this without the record button, you would press I and then select what you would want to save. You can either save the location, rotation, and scaling, or a mixture of all of those. But in this case, because these are going to be simple animations, we're going to use the record button. I actually find this to be much easier to use for animation. So make sure you have it depressed. And let's go ahead and start working on our first animation, which is going to be a left hand animation. So for my first frame, I want to set this first frame right here. I want to kind of mimic this image right here, her standing, hands down, and then I'll move one of her hands up. In this case, I'm doing the left hand animation, so I'll move her hand up. So something I need to point out though, because this is important for doing multiple animations, you want to change this right here from dope sheet to action editor, because we're going to create an action. An animation is basically an action. So once you've done that, you want to press new right here, then you want to give it a name. We'll call this left hand wave. And you want to make sure you press the F button right here, so Blender knows to save this animation. So if you wanted to create multiple animations, you would basically just press the plus sign, give your new animation a name. But let's go ahead and do this first animation. So make sure you are on frame 1. And then go up to your 3D view right here and make sure you are inside pose mode. If you're not inside pose mode, maybe you're in object mode, just click this right here and then go to pose mode on your armature, and then you can start posing. And make sure you have your record button depressed. So like I said, I'm going to try to copy this image right here. So let's go ahead and start. I'm going to take this hand and move it straight down. I'll rotate her hand a little bit. I'm also going to kind of make her fingers bend a little bit, so I adjust my view so I can shift right click the base of these fingers, and then I'll go back to front view with the 1 key, and then get out of perspective mode with perspective view with the 5 key. And with those fingers selected, I'll just rotate them up a little bit, and I'll rotate the hand a little bit. Okay, so because I'm doing a wave, I don't want to do the same thing I did with the right hand. I want to bring your hand up, kind of start a wave, rotate your hand. If you press R once, because we want the hand to face forward. If you press R once, you can only rotate on one axis, but if you press R twice, if you double tap R, you'll get more degrees of freedom on rotation. So I'll use that to kind of get it as straight as I can. I'll go to my top view to kind of straighten things out. I'll go to side view, 3 key. I don't really want the bend in her elbow, so I'm going to grab this elbow IK bone on the left side, just kind of move it forward to kind of straighten her arm. I'll straighten her hand a little bit. I'll go back to front view. I'll rotate the hand. This will be frame 1. Okay, so this is frame 1, and as you can see, because we have the record button depressed, let me go to my dope sheet. You can see it recorded all the bones, at least the bones that were affected. And so now we want to create our second frame, and I want this hand wave animation to last 20 frames. So this will be my first frame, this will be my second frame. Well, this will be my second keyframe, and this will be my second, my third and last keyframe, which will just be a duplicate of the first frame. So I actually need to move these to 0 because I want it to be 20. I want the data to be from 0 to 20. So if you're still at 1, you can still do it the same way. It would just be from 1 to 21, but because I like my numbers to be nice and even, I'll do it from 0 to 10 and then 10 to 20. Okay, so now I need to set that second frame, so I'm going to go forward to frame 10. Then I'm going to go ahead and pose the hand. It's going to come in a little bit. Also going to rotate her head a little bit, so I'll grab the head bone. I'll press R for rotate, and I'll type in 4 to rotate it 4 blender units. I'm also going to give this hand a little bit of motion. I'm just going to move it out a little bit and then rotate it a little bit. Okay. So this is my second keyframe. So what I can actually do to kind of test out what I've already made, I can go to my first frame and I can click and drag to kind of scrub through. Okay, so it seems like something happened. It seems like the head didn't save, so let me go back here. Something I didn't do right. So I want this to be in the original straight up position. Okay, so yeah, the head didn't move. Oh, I know why. This is kind of a common practice. Whenever you're on your first frame, you should select all your bones, and then you want to set everything here for your first frame and for your first keyframe and your last keyframe. So I'm going to go to my first keyframe. I should have did this first, but it doesn't really matter right now. You can always go back and do it. I'm going to go to my first keyframe. I'm going to press A to select all. You want to make sure all your bones are selected. Then you want to press I, and you want to copy everything. So we're going to press location, rotation, scale, and it'll save everything. So that's what the problem was with the head. So now when I scrub through, you'll see the head turn with it. Okay, so let's go and do this last frame. And as I said earlier, the last frame is just going to be a duplication of the first frame. So to do that, instead of having to repose the entire mesh, all I have to do is use my border select tool with the B key, and I can select this entire first frame. You want to scroll down to make sure you have all the frames, all the data, and then you can just press Shift D for duplicate, and then you can just use your mouse to move it over. And I want to move mine to 20. So this entire animation will last 20 frames. So now I can scrub through and see how the animation looks. If I wanted to go and fine-tune my animation, I can click anywhere and then adjust the bone. So let's say I wanted to rotate the head a little bit more on this frame, on frame for 13. And as you can see, because I have the record button depressed, it'll save that data and it'll reflect it when I play back the animation. If I wanted to see how the animation looks as it's playing, I can set my start and end frames right here in my timeline window, and then I'll press the play button. So I'll set my start to 0 and I'll set my end to 20 because my last frame of data is 20. Because like I said earlier, because this is my last frame, I want to save the entire rig. So I would press A, press I, then location, rotation, scale. In this case, I really didn't have to do that because the last frame is a duplicate of the first frame. But if, for instance, you were doing an animation that didn't have equal first and last frames, first and last keyframes, you'd want to do that. So so now I'm in my timeline. I want to see how it looks when I play it. I set my start and end frames, and I'll press the play button, and you'll see it playing. So I don't like that extra head motion I did right here on frame 13. So I'm just going to delete that data. I'll use my border select tool. I'll press the X key, just delete frames. So now when I play it, it won't have that awkward extra tilt in the head. You'll see her right hand does a little movement I added in. One thing you want to make sure when you're playing, even if you edit your armature while it's playing, it will reflect. So because I just edited it while playing, it still reflects inside the dope sheet. So to undo that, just press Ctrl Z and it'll undo it. I actually want my head to rotate a little bit more. If you want to see how the animation looks on the character without the armature in the way, just go to pose mode, object mode. You'll have your armature selected. You press H for hide. You can see how the animation looks without the armature. And of course, to bring the armature back up, just press Alt H, and your armature will be back up. And to see the data inside the dope sheet, make sure you have your armature selected. So that's how to animate. Just animate inside pose mode. So since we've created this left hand animation, let's go ahead and create a right hand animation. It's going to be a separate animation. So to do that, we're going to go back to our dope sheet. We're going to go over here, and we're going to press the plus sign. And you'll see the name right here change. So you want to change this to something appropriate. So in my case, I'm going to name it right hand wave. When we press the plus sign, it'll kind of just copy the last animation we were just working on. So I'm just going to delete this because this is a new animation, and you want to have at least one frame of data. So let me delete those last frames. Just keep the first frame because it actually needs to have some data. You want to make sure you have that F button pressed. If we wanted to go back and alter our left hand animation, we would click this button right here, and then we would select left hand wave, and then we would be able to edit this action right here. But let me go and do the right hand wave. Don't worry about that walk, that was something I did earlier. Okay, so I'm going to reset. I'm going to go into pose mode on my armature, so I'll right click my armature, I'm inside object mode. I'm going to go to pose mode. And so now I'm going to do the right hand animation. It's basically going to be the same thing except mirrored. So let me reset my entire mesh by selecting all of the bones in pose mode with the A key, and then I'll press Alt R to clear the rotation, and then Alt G to clear the rotation. And my record button is still pressed. I'm editing this frame right here, but I don't want to edit frame 0. So if you have your data on frame 0, grab that entire frame and move it up to something past that last frame that you were just working on. In my case, left hand wave lasted from 0 to 20. When I start a new animation, I want that new animation to start somewhere past this last frame. I don't want to start an animation in here because it will interfere with it. So I'll go to frame 30 inside my right hand wave, and this is where I'll start animating it. This is very important if you're using this for like Unity 3D or any other kind of game engine. When you import your animations, this will be the frame data that you import. Well, the frame data that you use to tell the engine the frames of animation. Okay, so let me clear my location rotation with Alt R, Alt G. So now I can start animating. We'll start posing. So I'm going to do the same thing, except it'll be in the opposite direction. I want to rotate the fingers a little bit. So I'm going to shift right click these finger bones. Accidentally grab the hand there. So go back to front view. I'll rotate them a little bit. I'll rotate the hand controller a little bit. So now I want to do the wave. So I'm going to bring this up. Rotate. I'll double tap R to rotate the hand forward. I'll pull it down to get a little bit of a bend in the arm. And you can kind of see that bend in the elbow that I don't want, so I'm going to grab this elbow IK bone, switch to side view, and then move it forward to get rid of that bend, at least on the side view. Straighten up my arm, I'll go to top view. So it seems fine. So this is going to be frame 30. So this animation is going to last 20 frames, just like my last animation. So this is my first frame. In fact, I'm going to do something different with this animation. I'm going to adjust the lower body a little bit. So I'm going to grab this foot controller bone right here, and I'm going to move it straight over in the X direction. So I'm going to press G with that bone selected. I'll press X to constrain it in the X axis, and then I'll just press 1, but that was too much. So let me try 0.1. 0.1 seems fine. I'll do the same thing on this side, except I will type in 0.1 negative to move it in the opposite direction. So now our lower body is a little different. So this is my first frame. I'm going to start posing my second keyframe, so I'm going to go 10 more frames over to frame 40. And I will do the head turn, similar to the same way I did the left hand animation. So I'll grab this bone, I'll press R for rotate, and then I'll press -5 to move it in the right direction. Move it to the right. And then I will move her hand to do the actual wave. And I'll also move this hand a little bit. Because this is my first frame right here, I'm going to select all the bones and I'm going to copy their location, rotation, and scale. So I'll press A inside my 3D view to select all the bones. And you'll know you have all the bones selected if they're all highlighted in blue. Then I'll press I, location, rotation, scale. It'll save it. And for this simple hand wave animation, I'm just going to copy over this frame 30 over to frame 50. And I'll go over to frame 50 and do the same process. Actually, I don't need to because it's a duplicate, so I won't. But like I said, if they were different, you would want to do that. So I can go down to my timeline right here and see how the animation looks by setting my start and end frames. So my start is 30, and my end is 50. I can press the play button, and I have a right hand wave animation. Very simple. So that's how to animate and how to create multiple animations. Like I said, if you want to go back and change one of the previous animations you've done, you would just click this list right here and then select the animation you want to alter. Of course, to play it, you have to alter the start and end frames. Well, mine was 20. And you'll press play. And you see nothing's been affected by the new animations we made, so everything is working just fine.